So, Judy?
So you just were touched on at the end there, like this quality, because I notice in you this quality of like, I think it's humility, isn't it? Where if there's something that you don't know, you are kind of looking to be disproven on your assumptions.
Mm-hmm. Always.
Whereas what I see for the rest of us is we're always making assumptions, like we have an experience and we're kind of like making an assumption almost automatically, like based on our, like, what we want it to mean, sort of thing.
Yes, most of the time based on what you want it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's about developing the quality of humility, or assuming that we're arrogant on every...
Yeah, well, there's all sorts of reasons why you might want something to be a certain thing that you already believe or think. And most of it is because you're not prepared to go through an emotion of being wrong on the matter for whatever reason. So an example of that is most of you don't want to accept that your parents never loved you, right? So why is that? Because there's a whole lot of grief associated with accepting that somebody doesn't love you. And when you don't want to go through the grief, you're trying to prevent an emotion. Once you prevent an emotion, what's happening in the methods of finding truth? So for this methods to find truth up here, and if I am now cutting off my emotion, so now I've crossed that out and said I'm not using that, what's happening? Now one of the methods that I've got for determining a truth has gone. Now I'm hamstringing myself, as the saying would be. So if you think of what happens when you're hamstrung, you can't walk. So you're fundamentally, a fundamental bodily function is now not possible for you. So as soon as you take out the emotion, a fundamental way of determining truth is gone now. You've now, and the way we take out our emotions is by not wanting to experience them. So when it comes to the determination of many things that we think are true, most of us want them to be true. And why do we want that to be true? Well, most of the time it's because we don't want to feel our feelings when it's false, when it's actually wrong. We don't want to feel those feelings, right? So, and because of that, we're basically fundamentally shutting down our emotion. So now it's going to be very hard for us to determine what the truth is now. And also not only hard, but also we will not have a desire to do it, which is even worse. So it's not only now hard to find the truth, but now we don't even have a desire to even find it anymore. That's once you get to that stage, you're now constraining change, you're now constraining growth, you're now, there's so many things that happen as a result of that. So for me, when a thought comes to my mind about any truth, the very first thing I'm doing is trying to test it. I'm coming up with experiments of trying to test it. I'm not automatically presuming that it's right. I always go through a period of experimentation, right? And the reason why I do is because if I don't do that, then fundamentally I'm making a decision based upon the fact that I'm also constraining my faculties. These are, you could call them faculties that we use to determine truths. And what I'm doing is I'm shutting down some faculties, still hoping to find out the truth, right? And I see this happens to many of you all the time. Even on a day-to-day basis when we're doing things like research and other things like that, where you're researching something, you get to a point where you're tired or you're exhausted by the search, and you just give up and you go, I'm just going to do it the easiest way I know how.
This must be the truth, this one that I just found.
Well, it might not be. You might even know that it's not the full possibility, but you just think the full possibility, finding out that's too hard now. I've got to go through grief and other emotions and frustration and anger and all these other emotions. I don't want to do that, so I just want to do what's easy now, right? And this is very dangerous to your future if you keep doing this, yeah? And so it's very important to understand these fundamental principles about what are you shutting down? Are you shutting down your senses? Well, I see many of you do that with food. So in other words, you go, it doesn't taste very good, but it's good for me. And you put it down, I go, it doesn't taste very good. That probably means it's probably not good for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you think about all the foods that taste pretty good, they're all pretty good for you. You think, I mean natural foods, not the ones humans create. And then you think about all the natural foods that are bitter and terribly sour. It's like with a lemon, you know, like a little dose of it's not too bad, is it? Because it's quite zingy, you know, and whatever. But imagine drinking a whole glass of it. It's like, whoa! You know, it's like drinking a glass of acid. How much is your body? It's meant to be flavouring things, not to be taken in these huge amounts. And your body's going to get, like, you just drank a glass of acid, so what's going to happen to your body? Like, of course it's going to have a reaction, you know. And then some people go, oh, but I really like the idea of oil and lemon, and you mix them together and you scull up, you know, and I'm going, well, sure, it certainly does clean out your bowel. You know, I've tried it. It certainly does. And is it good for you? You know, like having all that, you know, oil go through your liver and, you know, it's just, you know, and how hard is it even to make oil? Like, you have to have all sorts of devices even to make it. So you should be having little bits of it, not large amounts, and you should have it in a more natural environment, like eat it with the nuts, you know, eat raw nuts and then you have some oil, but not just pouring oil and eating it, you know, like that. You know, it's not very logical. But the average person goes, but it's good for me. So what they do is they shut down a sense. The sense of taste is shut down, the sense of smell is shut down, the sense, you know, the sickness they feel afterwards, that feeling they have, that's all shut down, but it's good for me, And of course I'm going, well, probably not. It's pretty logical that it's probably not. If you just use your senses on that one, you can pretty much determine the truth, right? Now, I'm not saying lemon is bad for you, I'm just saying small drops, you know, not like lemon after lemon every day, and eating one is a bit better than drinking, because you know that's like cutting up 5 lemons and, you know, getting all the juice out of it. You know, who would ever eat 5 lemons in a row, and want to? Like, only crazy people, only people who have lost their senses, right? So this tells you that you know, these these fads, of course, are not good for you, right? Now, let's say I've got a bad bowel. Well, why have I got one? If I need to drink lemon and oil in order to cure my bad bowel, then maybe I need to be looking more seriously at what I eat day to day, rather than just eating what I want day to day to a point where I get my bowel in such a state that it hardly functions, and then I have a whole litre of intense stuff coming into it to clear it out, and then I'm ready to go again with all the bad stuff. You know, that's the general action most people take, right? But it's, again, not logical. So this is what I see everybody doing. There's emotions that are determining to a large degree what a person chooses to do, even with their experiences, and what they accept as truth. For me, I know I have emotions, right? I have emotions about everything, like you guys do, right? But I don't believe they're all real. I don't assume that I need them to be satisfied. What I do is I'm still looking at everything from a sensory, emotional experience and intellectual point of view, not just using one tool, such as my addictions, to find a truth, which would never, by the way, happen. You'll never find truths through your addictions, except you'll find the true things that are not true through your addictions, generally speaking. So you can discount a lot of error through your addictions, but you'll never find what the truth is through your addictions, right? But this is the thing the average person needs to do, I feel, is to have a very, very open heart, very open mind. It doesn't matter what you feel about a truth. Is it true or not? That's the real question. It doesn't matter that you're angry about it. It doesn't matter that you're sad about it. It doesn't matter that you feel ashamed because of it. It doesn't matter. None of those things matter. What matters is, are they true? Period. That's it. Are they true? And then if they are, it will be loving for you to do something about that truth in every instance. It'll be loving. It's going to be, it's going to help your life doing something in harmony with it. Does that make sense? when you come in this approach that many people have of going, but I like the idea of that. I like that idea. Like many of you, when we talk about soulmates, you like the idea they're going to rescue you from your life, right? Don't you? You like knight in shining armour type soulmate, you know, that kind of thing, right? Some of your soulmates are in jail. Are they going to rescue you? Some of your soulmates have passed already. Are they going to rescue you? Something like, you know, like, do you want to find out the truth or not? And the only reason why we don't want to, oftentimes, is because we have emotions that we don't want to feel, that are involved in that process, and senses we don't want to experience in that process, right? So our logic then goes, oh, but that can't be true. Oh, that can't be true. Because I don't want to feel it, it can't be true.
And we're quite slippery as well. Like I look at that list, intellect, senses, emotions. You can have all of those things, but kind of tell yourself that it means
something else.
Something completely different that's not
yeah,
true.
We can make these assumptions.
Yeah.
That then go, oh, all of those things add up to this. It's like 1 + 1 + 1. It's meant to equal 3, right? But for us it equals 28. You know, because we've just come up with all these presumptions. And fundamentally we're not being mathematical in our presentation of truth. And remember last week we said the truth is always mathematical. It is always scientific. So there is always a chain of events you can follow. So you have a disease, there's a chain of events you can follow, and it always will get back to an emotion that you're in denial of. If you have an accident, there's a chain of events that will follow, and you'll always get back to an emotion you were denying. If there's a breakup in a relationship, there's a chain of events that occur that are all mathematical in the relationships, all about love, all about truth. And if you had chosen differently in harmony with the love and truth, probably that relationship wouldn't have broken up, or if it did break up, it would have been in harmony with the love and truth as to the reason why it broke up, right? Rather than something that you're pining for afterwards. All of these things are true when it comes to determining truths. And so when we are making these presumptions, assumptions, many of you are doing it on a daily basis. I notice that happening all the time. And then you also get to a place of what I would classify as emotional saturation. Do you know what I mean by that? Like you hear things or you investigate things to the point where you're now saturated emotionally and you can't handle anymore. Right? And that's because you're not handling your emotions. You're not going through the feeling of it. So you just feel like, I can't handle this anymore. I'm out of here. Right? That place of emotional saturation is the avoidance of truth. You're avoiding truth now in that place. As soon as you allow a saturation of any of the senses to the point where you're not processing it anymore, in other words, you're not humble to the processing of what's going on sensorially or emotionally, once you get to that point, you are now in denial of truth as well. That's automatic. Yeah? This is a slow way, because now the law must beat you into submission in order for you to find the truth. And it's not going to be something that you are voluntarily doing anymore. Right? A child voluntarily enters experiences without worrying about whether it's going to cry from the experience or experience pain from the experience. So that when the child starts to learn how to walk, it's not going, oh, I'm really worried. Because if I learn how to walk, I might fall over. And imagine if the child did that. I don't know how to walk. It looks pretty dangerous to me. 2 legs. Should be 4, probably. Or stable that way. Imagine if it could do that. Right? Rather than feeling, I want like fast mobility, which is a feeling the child in a harmony with love the child's actually having. If it was doing all these other things, and it would only be a parent teaching it to do this, of course, and doing all these other things in its assessment, would it ever learn to walk? Can you see if it was just constantly afraid and worried about how many accidents it could have? Imagine walking downstairs. It's like, oh, You know, that's very dangerous. That's, you now got one leg on it. You know, at any one point in time, you've got one leg balancing you. That's, you know, the child looking at that logically. That doesn't, you know, you should be going down on all fours. You know, I don't know how that would look, mind you. Or better still, going down on your bottom or something. You know, so it's all very stable. All very slow, of course, right? So you can see the limitations that come from you not wanting to experience something. It's exactly the same for adults. What we do as adults is we're frequently denying even the choice of experiences because we're worried about what the outcome will be. Like, so many of you have denied the choice to be yourselves because you're worried about what the outcome's going to be. You're worried that people will see your sins, your errors. You're worried that they'll make you feel ashamed and make you feel guilty. And you're worried that they're going to punish you and treat you badly. But these are not what a child, none of that is what a child would do. And so you can see there's huge restrictions to learning now, based upon all those worries, right? And this is a problem for the truth. This creates a problem with your investigation of truth. You've got to have experiences. Many of you are restricting experiences because of money. Like just that one thing, money, is restricting you from having experiences. That's like a paper thing, or now it's plastic, right? A plastic thing that's been created by humans is now restricting your experience, right? Where you won't face up to truths because they cost too much money. Or you won't face up to truths that would cost you less money, right? Because you're in this zone of worried about the money. The money's attached to your worth, and you know the money's attached to your emotions now. And because it's all attached to you, your decision making is terrible when it comes to it. Does that make sense? Same problem. Same problem where, again, we're not utilising all the methods to find truth. Right? So very important to understand from a really heartfelt position this idea.
Is this what you mean? This is sincere ignorance? Is it that you've been talking about this?
That's right. Remember, I think it was in Canada I started first talking a few years ago about what it means to be sincerely ignorant. And the average person isn't. You know, that the average person comes into every single thing with their history that they think has something pertaining to this new thing they're learning, and it doesn't. Like, you know, and so it's like when we start talking about God. Everybody has their own opinions about what that is. Everybody. You know, when I first started talking to many of you as a group about God, some of you were even present at way back in the early days when I talked about God. All I used to feel from audience is, oh no, you know, like, oh, you know, now we're going down religion again, are we? You know, that kind of feeling. And I'm going, what's it got to do with religion? Right? That's in your emotion. And that's restricting you now from learning the truth about God just because you have an emotion about religion. And that's a silly thing to do. Because God's the creator of the whole universe and God knows everything. It would be very wise to talk to God eventually and to get to know God eventually and to learn from God eventually. It would be the most wise thing for you to do of all of the wise things you could do. Because God's the source of all information. And yet the average person has already cut that off because of one emotion. Can you see it doesn't make any sense? And this is where our logic goes, oh, there is no God. And I'm going, huh? Like, that's not logical. All your senses, all your experience, all your emotions, all teach you about design and everything, and yet you're saying there's no designer. That doesn't make any logical sense, right? But when we have an emotion attached, like a religious history, or our parents treated us a certain way based upon their religious beliefs or whatever, now we have great impediments towards discovering the truth, even about God. So even like 2 weeks ago when we had that discussion at Mergen about God, like I couldn't even have that discussion with most of you 10 or 15 years ago. Because there's so many emotions that had to go first, you know? So many beliefs that had to go first before you can even have an open discussion about God. And yet God is probably, you know, if I was talking with a bunch of children, God would be the very first thing I started talking about. Makes sense? But because of the impediments to our methods of finding truth as adults that we've imbibed over years and years of experience, we the very thing that would benefit us the most, is now not possible for us because of all the impediments. And so then we've got to go through teaching a whole heap of other things to get to the point where we can teach the basic thing. Does that make sense? And that is what the danger is of how those emotions then make assumptions and cause us to drive, and our desire to avoid emotion drives us to that place. So when I'm presented with truths, or I'm presented with ideas, I'm not thinking, oh, that's not my idea, so it's a bad one. Right? Oh, that idea is going to make me cry, so I can't listen to that. I'm not thinking, oh, I'm going to be afraid if I thought about that, so I can't have that. I'm not thinking any of those things, because all of those things are impediments to finding out whether the thing being presented is actually true or not. Right? If you're prepared to go through all your emotions and prepared to go through all your sensory experiences, prepared to have whatever thoughts come into your mind and analyse them and work through them, prepared to go through and experience and make experiments, why would you be even worried about any new thing coming at you at any time? You wouldn't. You'd be soaking information up as fast as you possibly could. Right? So many of you know, those of you who deal with me on a daily basis know that I soak up information very, very rapidly, right? And the main reason why I do is because I don't have any emotional impediments to doing it. Make sense? It's got nothing to do with how clever I am or anything like that. It's just got everything to do with the fact of you get rid of your restrictions, now everything becomes rapid. Yeah, you understand? Everything you assimilate becomes rapid. So many times I'm talking to an engineer and they think I'm not getting something, but I often know I've often thought way beyond where they are with it, even though I'm not an engineer. Because I've assimilated a whole heap of information that they have emotional impediments to assimilating. Does that make sense? And while those emotional impediments exist, you are not going to find truths. While the impediments to your senses exist, you're not going to find truth. While the impediments to making experiments and failing exists, you are not going to find truths. The purpose of experiments is to find out whether they fail or succeed. You will never be able to build an experiment that only succeeds all the time. And then the next one only succeeds, and the next one only succeeds. You are only going to do that if somebody else comes along before you and they've done the ones that failed. Do you understand? Because in any experimentation of any subject, you are going to need to go through experiment after experiment after experiment in order to find out what is true. And many of those experiments, in fact, all of those experiments will fail until you find out what the truth is. And if you're not prepared emotionally to do that, then you're not going to discover truths. I was prepared emotionally to do that. Make sense? Yeah.